I got my first world record on September 18th, 2018. And like most first world records, it was in a game nobody plays, and a category nobody's ever heard of. Well, today, I have a special treat for you, because the speed game we're talking about today is one you've probably heard of, and one you might have even played. Age of Mythology was released in October of 2002. As the highly anticipated spin-off to the Age of Empires franchise, the game was poised to be a commercial success. Although it did not perform as well as its predecessor, Age of Empires 2, I can personally confirm it was fucking sick. Now, Age of Mythology has never been a popular speed game. RTS games in general tend to be poor ambassadors of speedrunning, and it's usually for one simple reason. They're slow. To explain why, let's show you how the typical gameplay of an RTS plays out. You start with a simple base and a couple of workers. These workers gather resources for you, which you use to upgrade your base, train more workers, and build an army. Your opponent typically attempts to do the same, with the end goal of both sides being to eliminate the other. A typical RTS campaign includes numerous missions, each requiring you to build a giant army from scratch to defeat your opponent. Luckily, speedrunners are usually craftier than that. We don't have time to do silly things like play games as they were intended. Yuck. No. As speedrunners, it is our goal, nay, our duty, to reduce a game down to its fundamental completion requirements. And with Age of Mythology, that's exactly what I did. This is the story of Age of Mythology's 5 world records that nobody wanted.
A hero has fallen.
In 2019, Age of Mythology had 4 major speedruns. Given that the game also had 4 major campaigns, this would seem to make sense. 1 speedrun for each campaign, right? Wrong. The 4 main speedruns at the time were Fall of the Trident, The New Atlantis, The Golden Gift, and all campaigns. There was 1 speedrun for each of the first 3 campaigns, and a final speedrun for completing all the campaigns back to back. But not only was there no speedrun for the 4th campaign, it wasn't even included in the all-campaign speedrun. To understand why, we need to turn back the clock a little. Or rather, a whole hell of a lot. Age of Mythology released in late 2002 with a single campaign. Fall of the Trident comprised 32 missions, and was, by all accounts, really fucking good. Almost a year later, in August of 2003, a second campaign was made available to download on Age of Mythology's website, for free. The Golden Gift only consisted of 4 missions, and to be honest, wasn't much of a campaign at all. Only 2 months later, with the release of the Titans expansion, the game received its 3rd campaign. The New Atlantis featured 12 new missions, and despite being almost a third the size of the original campaign, gamers and critics alike would agree that this new campaign was pretty cool. And then, time moved on. Gamers forgot all about Age of Mythology. Empires rose and fell, and finally, after 14 years, it happened. The Age of Mythology community was blessed with the expansion we had long been anticipating, the one we all definitely asked for, and all agree was absolutely necessary to round off the Age of Mythology story to a perfectly pristine polish. Mwah. Looking back, there was one primary factor which led to this new expansion not being accepted by speedrunners. The Age of Mythology community had been dead for over 10 years. And it was fucking shit.
Oh, of course, most generous soldier.
You see, back in 2019, nobody had ever speedrun Tail of the Dragon before. There weren't many active runners in the community at that time, and even fewer still that were willing to run it. But not only had nobody ran it, nobody had routed it, and it wasn't even listed as a campaign on the speedrun.com leaderboards. That is, until a promising young runner entered the scene, and changed the landscape of Age of Mythology speedrunning forever. But what was also happening behind the scenes around that same time was the addition of a second category, separating out the regular runs that everyone had been doing from a newer, fancier, more prestigious type of run, known only as editor glitch. Editor glitch runs were faster, snappier, and all around just better runs, literally saving hours over the traditional speedrun. And with that one simple change, the speedrunning community never looked back, and have been running and enjoying editor glitch speedruns ever since. What? That's not at all what happened. Nope, because there was one simple problem with editor glitch speedruns. They sucked. Well, that and nobody knew the glitch existed. Editor glitch is actually very obscure, and there was very little information online as to how this glitch worked. It's possible that earlier runners knew of the glitch's existence, but weren't very keen on its use. And well, there are a number of reasons as to why they would be totally justified in that opinion. First, editor glitch just feels like cheating. Age of Mythology has a built-in map editor, which lets you design your own campaigns. In the editor, you can open up the game's various campaign missions and change them. You could give yourself infinite resources, or start yourself off with a giant army. Hell, you could edit the trigger system to automatically beat each mission as soon as it starts. But all of that would be cheating. And that's just not what speedrunning is about. But what if you could use the editor during the campaign? You'd be playing the campaign, just with insane godlike powers. I feel like there are some parallels I could draw here to actual mechanics within the game. Nope, nothing comes to mind. Here's how the editor glitch works. Open the editor and start placing a bunch of units. Select those units and copy them to the clipboard. Now select the paste option. To complete the glitch, hover your cursor over a unit and click the middle mouse button. You have now broken the game more than you can possibly know. Or I suppose I could just tell you. Every time you click the left mouse button, the game will attempt to paste the units you copied around the location you just clicked. There's a lot of nuance to get into, but let's put a pin in that for now. The real reason nobody was keen on using the editor glitch is it's really goddamn boring. In speedrunning, there are many glitches that end up derailing the entire speedrun and splitting the community into two groups. Those who want to go fast, and those who want an interesting speedrun with a lot of depth, skill expression, and strategy. Let's use Oblivion as an example. Oblivion's main speedrun category is no out of bounds. It's a fantastic speedrun where you escape prison, run to your dealer's house, and spend the rest of the game high on skooma, teleporting around Cyrodiil, closing Oblivion gates, and saving the world. In Oblivion's any percent category, everything changes. First, you jump out of bounds, then you jump out of bounds, next you go through a door and, yep, jump out of bounds. Another door, some running, more out of bounds, and just a little longer, and time.
I do what I must do.
Load warping, gone. Scroll duping, gone. And I'm ashamed to admit it, but the skooma, all gone. A single glitch dominated the entire run and reduced all of the nuance and strategy down to, and we use the glitch because it's really fast. Well, that describes editor glitch to a T. But despite Oblivion's any percent being an objectively terrible speedrun, people still run it. So, what separates Oblivion from Age of Mythology? What makes editor glitch so unplayable? And I think to best explain this, we need to see the editor glitch in action. This is Omens, the first mission. Pirates are raiding Atlantis. As an admiral in the Atlantean Navy, it is your job to protect your fellow Atlanteans. There's just one problem. You don't have any boats. Sure, you've got plenty of docks, but you're not allowed to use them for anything sea-related or ocean-adjacent. Or, actually, I suppose they are ocean-adjacent, so you can just use them to be adjacent to the ocean. Nifty. You have no choice but to wait patiently on the shores of Atlantis for each wave of pirates to attack. For mere mortals, that is. No editor glitch speedrunners, whom I will henceforth be referring to as just speedrunners, use a clever sequence break whereby attacking the first pirate ship early At the very edge of the bay, you can pull aggression from several of the krakens waiting just offshore and skipping the second wave timer entirely. God, that looks slow. Here's how we do things in the editor glitch category. The pirates have conveniently arranged all of their forces next to two small islands in the distance. Now, you aren't allowed to build a navy in this mission, so there isn't any real way to get over there. But we can paste dozens of units at the click of a button. And just like that, we wipe all of the pirates out in a matter of seconds, which completes the mission. As you just saw, editor glitch saves a staggering amount of time. A complete no editor glitch speedrun of all 4 campaigns, which has never been done before, would take around 6 hours, while the complete editor glitch speedrun took me roughly 2.5 hours. On paper, that's 3.5 hours of time save. But the question you should be asking yourself is the very same question Oblivion speedrunners were faced with. But at what cost? As it turns out, cutting the run in half doesn't just skip all the boring sections. It also cuts out the highly technical sections, which, for speedrunners, is our bread and butter. To help illustrate this, I've prepared some handy graphs. This is Fall of the Trident no editor glitch. I've separated the run into sections. The highlighted sections represent levels 11, 18, 29, and 30. These levels are a speedrunner's worst nightmare. You guessed it, they're autoscrollers. Let's see how much editor glitch changes the run. Did you see it? It's okay if you didn't. Let's look at the new Atlantis next. Maybe you'll see it there. Again, the highlighted sections are autoscrollers. Did you see it that time? That's alright, that's alright. I can play this game all day. Let's look at the golden gift. How about now? No, that's a fair point. There aren't any autoscrollers in this campaign. But I already made the graphic. What am I supposed to do? Not use it? Let's look at the final campaign. Please tell me you saw it. If you didn't see it, that's okay. I am indeed a man of many graphs. In no editor glitch, autoscrollers make up 27% of all the campaigns. With editor glitch, we save 3.5 hours, and this number jumps to 55%. The reason nobody runs editor glitch is because it saves so much time. And the only time left is boring, unskippable bullshit, which, in the case of Age of Mythology, is an hour and a half of autoscrollers. And nobody wants that. Nobody, except for me, apparently. So, why did I do it? Am I a masochist? Do I hate myself, or do I simply have nothing better to do? Yes. And so, without any further ado whatsoever, I present to you Age of Mythology editor glitch. All the campaigns. Unlike no editor glitch, before we can jump into the campaign, we need to do some preparation. This means copying all the different units we're going to need throughout the run. As per my routing, we'll want to start with a very important unit, the humble giraffe. Next, we'll add a large grid of Osirises. Osiri? Many copies of Osiris. As I'm sure many of you are already aware, Osiris is the Egyptian god of fertility, agriculture, the afterlife, the dead, resurrection, life, and vegetation. He's really powerful, and in fact, this unit only exists in the game because of one cutscene at the end of Mission 20.
What? No!
You were never intended to gain control of Osiris, but what am I supposed to do? Not use him? His attacks deal 15,000 damage, and they chain that damage across multiple enemies via a lightning bolt. He honestly couldn't be better designed for the speedrun. Well, I suppose they could have removed his attack animation and fixed his AI, but we'll have plenty of time to cover those nitpicks later. We've got a long way to go.
Gagarensis still breathes. Come on!
Our next unit we need is a battle boar. I think we all know what we'll use that for. Now, it's very important that you give the battle boar lots of space to run around. Otherwise he gets all cranky and just do it, okay? Next, place a barracks with a rock over top. Look, I'm not gonna hold your hand the whole way. It's a barracks with a rock on top. It practically explains itself. Then some colossus. I know we already have 15,000 damage, but what's a little more between friends? The more colossus you have, the faster you can eat those gold mines, so get placing, folks. And finally, we need some walking snowy pines. And walls of Troy short. Now, you're gonna be tempted to splurge here and spring for the walls of Troy long. I'm gonna tell you right now, this is a huge mistake, and one that a lot of new editor glitch runners make. Let's just say that piece of the puzzle has already been placed. Oh, and one final piece of the puzzle. Go ahead and put Atlanta down, next to the barracks with a rock on it. I love it when a plan comes together. Mission 2. Consequences. Don't worry, we'll be starting to move a lot faster from now on. The goal of this mission is to fight Kamos and reduce his health by 35%. Unfortunately, at the start of the mission, Kamos is nowhere to be found. That's because he starts the mission disguised as an invisible red and blue striped triangular prism. I am not making this up. As a low-res invisible candy cane, Kamos cannot be targeted or damaged. And to do so, we need to play the mission as intended. Sorry, I think I drew up a little. The trigger to transform Kamos into an imperceptible polyhedron back into a magnificent minotaur is simple. Advance to the next stage. Do I need to explain the age mechanic to you? Let's just do it. Each player can advance through 4 different stages of technology. The Archaic Age, the Classical Age, the Heroic Age, and the Mythic Age. Typically, players start in the Archaic Age, where they need to build a temple before spending 400 food to research the Classical Age at a town center. In the Classical Age, you can build an armory and spend 800 food and 500 gold to advance to the Heroic Age. And finally, to advance to the Mythic Age, you must build yourself a market and spend 1,000 food and 1,000 gold. Great. You now know pretty much everything there is to know about the age mechanic. Don't worry, this mechanic will never come up again. Wait, we start the mission in the Archaic Age, so we need to build a temple, right? Wrong. Didn't I explain this to you earlier? Our next unit we need is a battle boar. I think we all know what we'll use that for. Honestly, I don't even know why I bother. Because of the Titans expansion, several new units were added into the game. Now, the Fall of the Trident campaign was designed before the expansion came out, and therefore these new units didn't exist. The game's missions fall into one of 2 categories. Either they were designed in a version of the game before the expansion was added, or they were designed in a newer version of the game, with all of the new units. The game's editor falls into the second category. Kind of. When you open the editor, you'll be launched into a version of the game with all of the units included. But if you were to load up the first mission, for example, you'll be thrown into a version of the editor with only the units from the vanilla game. So when you're setting up the editor glitch, you need to consider which version of the game you'll be pasting these units into. Any units used in or created after the Titans expansion cannot be pasted into older versions of the game. On top of this, there are effectively 2 different pools of units, the original pool and the expansion pool. When you copy the units, you are copying them from the expansion pool. But when you paste the units, you're pasting them from the original pool. So, if you were to copy unit number 37 from the expansion pool, when you paste it, you'll get unit number 37 from the original pool. And the units you copied don't necessarily map to the units you're pasting anymore. All that is to say, in the old version of the game, the battle boar now maps to the temple. And so by pasting in a battle boar, we can skip building a temple. Which brings us to the first instance of waiting in the run. While we wait for our town center to research the next age, we can commence with the next stage of the mission. Destroying Kamos' base is the second and final condition of his transfiguration. And he's second now. Boom.
Kamos is fleeing from the town center. After him.
That's the second mission. Mission 3. Scratching the Surface. This mission is much more emblematic of most missions in this run. Bing, bang, done.
With the Trojan docks destroyed, Agamemnon's army can land.
Mission 4. The trigger to beat this mission is destroying the Trojan Gate at the end of the level. but that trigger isn't active until we complete the first objective. To do this, we need to capture a Trojan gold mine. Then, boom. Done. Mission 5. We have 3 main triggers to complete in this level. First, defeat the enemies around Ajax. Second, move Arkantos to Ajax's base. And third, destroy all the Trojan buildings in the northern settlement. Like a true speedrunner, we are not going to do these things in order. We will start with the slowest, and therefore most important objective, walking Arkantos to Ajax's base. Although we could spawn Arkantos into this mission, already in Ajax's base, the game's trigger is tied specifically to the Arkantos we start the mission with. The other 2 triggers are straightforward, so just spam a bunch of Osiris's. Arkantos is pretty slow, so everything should already be dead by the time he reaches his destination. And done. Mission 6. Ah, yes. The Trojan Horse Mission.
A horse, yes. A great wooden horse.
We're supposed to gather 1,000 wood, construct a Trojan horse, sneak into Troy, take down the gate, and finally send our army crashing through to destroy Troy's fortresses and win the battle. But the developers fully intended you to be able to fight the Trojans head-on if you wanted to. And done. Skipping ahead a little bit, this is actually a no-build mission, which to us means nothing, but to everyone else, it's a no-build mission. We start with 3 heroes, and we need to fight our way through the winding path to collect 3 relics and bring them to the Temple of Hades across the River Styx. Relics are neutral items that can only be picked up by heroes. It stands to reason that the developers assumed this requirement would force us to bring all 3 of our heroes all over the map and, actually play the mission. Sorry. As you can imagine, I have absolutely no intention of doing that. So I navigate my way to the 3 relics and paste in my cornucopia of random crap at each one. The more keen-eyed observers among you might notice some strange behavior here. Well, that's because 3 of the 32 missions in the original campaign behave like expansion missions. For whatever reason, using the editor glitch on these missions results in pasting the same unit as was copied in the editor. It is because of this that we placed a rock on top of our barracks earlier. On original missions, the barracks turns into a rock, and on expansion missions, the rock is already a rock. If you're wondering why Osiris is still here, he always maps to himself. Anyway, in this mission, we use Atlanta to pick up the relics and put her in the rock, and carry all 3 relics to the end of the mission.
The lost relics are returned.
Mission 11 is our first major autoscroller. We're supposed to excavate an artifact. You need villagers to do this, and the mission doesn't give us very many to start with. I can't imagine how that would stop us. There's a lot of nuance to be discovered here about how to effectively place villagers efficiently around the excavation, but I'm not going to be the one to figure it out. The real trick is getting your villagers to the dig site as fast as possible, which can be a little tricky with all these Osiri in the way. But once that's taken care of, we can stare at this corner of the map until the mission is over. Mission 12 is one of my favorites. The most obvious objective is to bring the sword artifact we uncovered in the last mission to the Guardian at the heart of Kemsit's base. But the trigger isn't active yet. The actual first objective is to defeat the guards holding these villagers prisoner, then bring the prisoners to the nearby village. But since the in-game trigger doesn't specify which villagers we need to bring, any old villagers will do. The Guardian trigger is now active, and we can bring the sword bearers to it and awaken the Guardian. The final objective is to defeat Kemsit's army. But Kemsit is running a little late, and since the game detects 0 units in his army, the objective completes immediately and the mission ends. Another riveting mission here. Our goal is to capture the Osiris piece cart in the center of the map and bring it back to our base. The most you can optimize this is to prepare an ambush for the scripted ambush just outside of your base. And also by deleting all the walls protecting your base, which only serve to confuse the camel's pathing. Mission 17. This mission benefits from the transport glitch, so let's talk about it now. We copied Walls of Troy short into our clipboard earlier. This was to make the transport glitch easier to set up. Wall of Troy short maps to the transport ship Norse, so that's why we needed those. To perform the transport glitch, you need to load units into a transport, and then get that transport stuck so it can't move. After which point you can tell the transport to unload anywhere you'd like. and those units will instantly be transported to their new destination. There's not much to this mission. Let's just move on. Mission 18. It's Excavation Part 2. This time, it's a piece of Osiris that's stuck inside of a tree, so we need to chop down the tree. Chopping trees is essentially the same thing as digging, so... What's with that mass exodus? Oh, they're just... Mission 20. Hey, it's another almost identical wait for camels to drag their butts halfway across the desert mission. But this time, we have 3 camels to babysit. To do this optimally, we need to tell the camels to start moving, and then clear the path in front of them before they find out that it was blocked. It's not like the enemy has any hope of stopping us, but they can be a bit tricky to spawn in the Osiris, order them to destroy the walls blocking your path, while also managing to delete any building and units you inadvertently spawn in your way. After getting the first 2 Osiris carts to the flag, the 3rd cart spawns in. The only enemies left on the map at this point are the ones we bring with us, so I make sure to quickly move all of the caravan's guards out of the way. And then, we wait. What's that? You think I should move on? Are you sure? This is riveting stuff. I'll move on. Mission 21. I hate this mission. This is one I couldn't really figure out the triggers for. Everything works fine if you play the mission normally. Nope, didn't enjoy the sound of that. So the gimmick here is we've all been turned into pigs. Pig Arkantos and Pig Ajax need to travel to the temple on the other side of the island before receiving the objective to defeat Circe. But there's some sort of intermediate objective that also needs to be met? I don't know. I think I softlocked my game the first time round, so I just had to try it all over again. Ideally, you could just send Pig Arkantos and Pig Ajax in a rock to the temple and then kill Circe, but alas, it was not meant to be. Maybe I'll figure it out one of these days. Mission 23. Here you're supposed to capture the Dwarven Forge in the middle of the map, and then defend it for like 12 minutes to beat the mission. But you can also just eliminate your opponent, which is really easy when you have the God of the Dead on your side. Also, you have to build a settlement, I think. Mission 25. This is already an incredibly easy mission normally. We have to kill the leader of each tribe. I'll give you 3 guesses as to how I pull it off. Too late. Mission 26. So, for this level, we need to travel to each of the 3 Norse clans in order to perform a task for them. The first clan wants us to clear out the mine of trolls. I'm not sure what trolls they're referring to, but they seem happy and that's what really matters. The second clan wants us to deliver them 5 adult giraffes directly on top of these flags here. Hang on, did I say giraffes? I meant to say towers. We need to build towers on each of the 5 flags. I am forever mixing those 2 up. Luckily for us, the giraffe just so happens to map perfectly to the sentry tower. You may remember me emphasizing the importance of starting with the giraffe. We'll want to start with a very important unit. The humble giraffe. The units you paste spawn around your mouse, but the positions they spawn in is relative to the average position of all the units in your clipboard. So if you have 2 units in your clipboard, the halfway point is between those 2 units, which would be where your mouse is calculated at. So if you have a giraffe in the middle of all your units, it's very likely that the giraffe will spawn somewhere near your cursor, which is really helpful if you have to, say, precisely place a bunch of towers onto flags. I'm not sure when that specific scenario would ever arise, but hey, at least you're prepared for it now. And finally, the last Norse clan wants us to rescue Greta Forkbeard from the sentry tower at the bottom corner of the map. Is the name Greta Forkbeard important or relevant to the speedrun at all? I think we both know it isn't. You're welcome. Mission 27. For this one, the triggers are sort of odd. The first objective is to actually destroy this tiny little wooden gate, which is just kind of a weird choice. And then we're supposed to defeat the many waves of myth units that are going to emerge from the Well of Erd. Do I need to explain what a myth unit is? Nah, you're fine. Anyway, because I'm really good at the game, I can kill the first fire giant that spawns from the well immediately before any other myth units are able to spawn, and the game is like, yep, that's all of them. Mission 28. For some reason, the final trigger is to kill the fire giants guarding the ram, instead of the actual ram, which, alright, if that's what you want me to do, that's what I'll do. Just don't come crying to me when every Tom, Dick, and Harry is cheesing your mission because 6 fire giants isn't really that big of a challenge. Anyway, the cutscene for this level is unskippable. So that's cool. But I guess this is a good teachable moment. let's take a second to watch this cutscene. Notice how it... how do you say it? Doesn't completely suck? Great. Remember that for later. Trust me, it's important. Mission 29. Hey, we finally made it. This is the third and final expansion mission. Why are missions 9, 10, and 29 expansion missions when the rest of the missions aren't, you ask? I don't know. But I can tell you that I definitely forgot something earlier. It's also a really stupid thing to forget. Since this is an expansion mission, the villagers we were using earlier to excavate our swords and chop down our trees, yeah, they're just stupid colossus now, so we need to redo our editor glitch. Atlantean villager heroes are the fastest working villagers in the game. But since they were introduced in the Titans expansion, they can only spawn in expansion missions, which would be useful if it wasn't so damn annoying. The good news is we can safely add these villagers to our clipboard without them interfering with the rest of our run. This is because they simply won't spawn or get in the way of any other levels. But it would be so much faster if we could have just been using Atlantean villagers this whole time. Anyway, we've got another tree to cut down. This tree, or tree root, needs to be crafted into the haft of Thor's hammer. The hammer's head is already crafted, and we simply need to unite the two together to complete the mission. At some point during the mission, we will gain control of the ox carrying the hammer's head, and can bring it to the taproot that will soon become the hammer haft. Actually, the hammer haft is currently an invisible white present right now, which is mostly an irrelevant point, but it's kinda interesting. So, we need to load up the hammer head into a rock and fly it towards the invisible present while we wait for the villagers to cut down the taproot and trigger the present to turn into the hammer haft. What's moderately interesting, if we can get the hammer head to the invisible present before we cut down the taproot, we'll complete the mission before the present has time to turn into the handle. Like I said, moderately interesting. Mission 30. How do I put this? Fuck. Mission 30 starts by asking you to build a town center. Once it's built, the timer begins. What timer, you ask? The invisible 10-minute timer, of course, and there's nothing we can do to skip it. Believe me, I've tried.
Cease your futile attack.
I found a way to hardlock the game, though, so that's fun. I might as well explain how the hardlock works, since we're going to be here a while. After the 10 minutes is up, 10 minutes I might add, where literally nothing happens, the game so generously gives us the time to build up our economy and defenses, which we don't need. But after the 10 minutes, we get this cutscene.
To the east.
The cutscenes in Age of Mythology aren't really cutscenes. What you see is actually happening in-game. There are a number of convoluted triggers at play here that are moving the camera around, playing dialogue, and ordering units. Now, most of the units in this cutscene are spawned in by the game, but two in particular are not. Gargarensis, who is the big evil bad guy by the way, and Skult can both be found on the map before the cutscene starts. Now, you aren't normally able to access this area as the developers blocked it off with an indestructible boulder. But that wouldn't be enough to stop a clever man. So, let's say you wanted to spawn Osiris on top of the cliff and kill Gargarensis before the cutscene ever started. Seems like a good idea, right? Well, don't get too excited, because Gargarensis and Skult are special heroes. And special heroes can't die. When you kill a special hero, they fall to the ground with 1 HP and will be revived at the mere presence of any nearby allied unit. But what if someone were to, I don't know, build a building on top of their body? Well, if someone were to do that, then Gargarensis and Skult's bodies would be removed from the game to make room for the building, and then say, when the game attempted to call upon those units to act in the cutscene, well, then I suppose there wouldn't be anything left for the game to call upon, and the cutscene would just freeze. Anyway, we don't want to do that. Let's see, how much time is left? Oh yeah, the timer's invisible. After the timer is up and the cutscene plays, it's finally time to start the mission.
To the east.
Right? We get to do something interesting now? Please? Nope. We've got another 20 minutes to wait. But don't worry, we get a timer this time. So, I find this is a pretty good point in the run to go to the bathroom, grab a glass of water, do a crossword. You know, you got time for some stuff. And... Just a little longer. And done.
Yay.
Yep, that's the entire mission.
Wasn't that so much fun?
Okay, back on track. Mission 31. We're finally going to get a chance to make use of the walking snowy pines from the start of the run. First, we need to build a base to start the mission's main objective. The objective
Rescue as many Atlanteans.
is to run all around the island rescuing prisoners and evacuating them to a small island. And I'm betting you already figured it out. Walking Snowy Pine maps directly to the prisoner, so just place 15 healthy, alive prisoners on the island and forget all about those other 15 prisoners who are now going to sink to the bottom of the ocean with the rest of Atlantis.
The entire city is lost.
We rescued the people.
What about our Cantos?
Finally. Mission 32. This is going to get a little technical, so try to keep up. And with that, the campaign is over. All 32 missions have been completed. Boy, that sure was a long one. I can't imagine having to sit through any more.
Arcantos,
What's that?
awaken.
We have 3 more campaigns to get through. Yeah. Sorry. Our next campaign is the Golden Gift. Don't blink, you'll miss it. To set up the editor glitch, you'll need some Chimera, many copies of Osiris, a few Chaos effects, several Walls of Troy short, and a barracks. Mission 1. We need to get Brock and 4 ox carts to the opposite corner of the map. And I'm a complete idiot. As it turns out, you don't need to get this Brock and 4 ox carts to the end of the level. You still need 4 ox carts, but any old Brock will do. Please feel free to ignore any strategy I employ here, as it is completely unnecessary. What you should do is just paste the required units at the end of the level immediately and win the game. Mission 2. Our goal here is to get Eatri and 6 dwarves to the opposite corner of the map. And there's definitely no way of getting around it. It definitely needs to be this specific Eatri. You see, if you place any other Eatri, you've got to be shitting me. Mission 3. Here, our objective is to take control of the forge and defend it for 12 minutes. But that sounds really boring, so instead, we just kill all of Eatri's units. Mission 4. You might not believe this, but this is the final mission of the campaign. Our only objective is to get this Brock and this Eatri to the battle boar in the top corner of the map. And I promise you, there's absolutely no way that pasting in Brock and Eatri is going to work here. See? I told you. Oh my god. You didn't believe me. You know, that honestly hurts. More than any of the horrible things I've said about you behind your back. And I feel so betrayed. But you know what? I forgive you. Well, best not to dwell on the past. Which means it's time for the new Atlantis. We've got to set up again. Here's what you'll need. A temple, 1 Bellerophon, another rock, several Atlantean villagers, some Mermilos, and lots of Osirises. And just like the giraffe earlier, it's very important that the temple is in the middle. You should take the time now to note where it spawns relative to your cursor, as it will be on the test.
And the temple spawns about like that. Okay, that works for me.
Mission 1. Immediately click Anywhere. This will spawn the Mermilo you copied earlier.
That is the temple for
Next, spawn some villagers roughly over here, and move them into the sky passage once prompted. Finally, spawn some villagers and order them to construct a town center. Perfect. Mission 2. Destroy the enemy's town center.
Atlantis.
Mission 3. Kill General Malagius.
I've been injured. Soldiers, to me!
Mission 4. Destroy each of the 3 enemy temples and replace them with temples of your own. There's not a lot of room to place them. I wonder if someone might have given you some small wisdom earlier that might make placing these temples easier. Nope, nothing comes to mind. Next, you'll want to place some units around the 4th, much larger temple to the north. Now that you can see Odin's tower, use your Vortex God power next to it. You need caster to teleport here, so if you've placed too many units, it might be wise to delete a few to make room. Also, if you're having trouble casting god powers, that's because the editor glitch breaks the left mouse button. Anytime you've seen me clicking on things and selecting units and stuff, I've actually been using shift click and alt click to do so. Neither of these methods are relevant right now, but if you've been trying to follow along at home, you've probably been having one hell of a time trying to keep up without being able to order units around. Maybe I should have mentioned it earlier. Anyways, another way to get around the broken left click is to double click. The first click will paste units as normal, and the second click will function as a normal left click. And we can use this normal left click to activate god powers. Clicking on the god power works normally because menus are not affected by the editor glitch, but when you actually want to use the god power, you might struggle a bit trying to cast it. I find it's usually best to spam click. Once caster reaches Odin's tower, the game will grant you the Deconstruct Wonder god power. Use the god power on Odin's tower to complete the mission. Again, you'll have to spam click to get it to work. Mission 5. Ooh, this is a fun mission. It's essentially the same mission as Mission 10 from the Follow the Trident campaign. The only difference is we have 5 relics to capture, and we need to bring them to our temple in the middle of the map. We're using Bellerophon instead of Atlanta this time, but honestly, it doesn't really matter which one you use. The rock can help you extract the relics from the enemy's bases, but since your heroes move faster than the rock, you might want to cover as much distance as possible on foot. Mission 6 is pretty straightforward. Pop caster into a rock and send him to the middle of the map. Move some units to a nearby temple, and then look back at caster. Once the nearby units activate the trigger at that temple, you can move caster to this area to spawn an underworld passage. Proceed to ignore the underworld passage and continue onwards to the center of the map. The final trigger should now be active, and all you need to do is get caster to the top of Mount Olympus. Mission 7. Fun fact, the IL world record for this mission is a 2-way tie. That's not some freak accident. You quite literally can't beat the mission any faster. That's right, baby. We've got to wait 15 minutes. So, what's new with you? Mm-hmm. Yep. Wow. I didn't know that. Should we move on? Let's move on. Oh, but I guess I should mention, at some point, you have to make 3 rocks and send them to caster's base. And that's the mission.
Over to Castor. He can't hold out much longer.
Hi. Sorry. Before we move on, I just have to qualify everything I just said. Individual level speedruns are based off in-game time, while full campaign runs are based off of real time. This is why the individual level world record for this mission is a 2-way tie. But in full campaign runs, you can absolutely beat the mission faster. This is the reason why I keep staring at the corner of the map on these long autoscroller missions. We don't have time to get into it, but basically, it makes the game run faster. Now, at the time, I didn't fully understand all the mechanics at play here, and I didn't actually end up saving any time. But if I did manage to save time here, all of the footage in this video would look like this.
Rig. Up.
And I want to be absolutely clear on this point. You're welcome. I'm not really sure how to break this to you. We gotta put the puppy down. Mission 9. Yeah. The cute little trolls gotta go too. And the grotesque clay abomination. I know. It breaks my heart to have to do this. I'll never forget you. Oh, hang on. False alarm, people. It was just an eyelash. Sorry, what were we doing? Mission 11. All the heroes go into the rock and move towards the center of the map. It might be faster to just use the main speedrun strats here, but honestly, in the time it would take me to explain them, we could be done the mission already.
We must be swift.
Mission 12. By far the second dumbest mission in this campaign. First, you'll need to spawn units at each of the summoning pools, and use your vision to cast Gaia's Seed in each one. Then you'll want to spend the next few minutes preparing for the final few minutes of the mission. In about 4 minutes, Kronos is going to spawn.
Kronos walks the earth.
And for the remaining 8 minutes, you need to keep him from destroying the 4 summoning trees you just planted. It is very important that you don't kill Kronos here, as the final trigger of this mission is to bring his health below 2,000 hit points. And I can't stress this enough. You can't bring his health below 2,000 hit points if he's dead. Ideally, we'd bring his HP down to 2,000 and just wait. But Kronos has the most insane health regeneration of all time. So instead, we spend pretty much the entire 12 minutes sending Bellerphonies to their death. At some point, you're going to want to start whittling down his health. But trust me, you've got time. Hell, you could just wait for the time to expire and then spawn in a metric fuckton of Osiri to absolutely annihilablast him back to the underworld. Both methods take about 12 minutes. And with that, the campaign is complete. Woohoo! We did it! The all-campaign speedrun is over! It's finally over! And we got through it together. I'm so proud of you. There's absolutely nothing that could dampen my spirits right now. The one we all definitely asked for, and all agree was absolutely necessary to round off the Age of Mythology story to a perfectly pristine polish. Oh, Now, I would love to tell you that Tale of the Dragon is the single greatest expansion to ever come out for any game ever, and about how well designed and pristinely polished it is. And on top of that, how wonderfully fun its speedrun is. But that would be called lying. So, without any further ado, let's light this dumpster fire. For this run, we will only need 3 different units. Some Osiris, villager Atlantean heroes, and villagers Chinese. Atlanteans have the fastest workers in the game, and we only need these other villagers for a colossally dumb reason which I am unable to fully explain to you. But we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Oh good, we're here. I believe I mentioned earlier how villagers Atlantean hero are the fastest workers in the game. And the only reason we didn't use them in the first excavation mission was because you can't have expansion units in that mission. Well, this mission is a lot like that mission. And do you remember how fun that mission was? Me neither. Well, we've got 5 more dig sites to excavate this time, and for some reason, Atlantean villagers can't excavate 2 of the dig sites. So, anyways, the strategy here is to start with these 2 sites. They have the least surface area and therefore take the longest to uncover. The most Atlanteans I've ever had working on the first site here is 9, but it usually takes far too much finagling to set up, so if you can, try for 8 and move on to the next site. The rest of the sites really shouldn't matter that much. Just get a bunch of workers on them and they should still finish before the first 2. And that's the level. Oh, also don't forget to build a garden at some point because it triggers the timer that you were supposed to be racing against this whole time. Oh, and all the cutscenes in this campaign are unskippable.
That must mean that yin and yang are no longer in balance.
Yay! Mission 2. Destroy the enemy's town center.
The mountain base has been destroyed. Ji's temple must be near. We need to find him.
Mission 3. This is my favorite mission in the whole game. Fantastic. Mission 4. And I guess we have to talk about this level. For this mission, we need to survive an onslaught of enemy waves and hold out for 15 minutes. And what I love about this mission so much is you don't have to do anything. You can sit there for 15 minutes watching your opponent try to beat you. They won't have enough time. But on the tail end of a 3-hour speedrun, this tends to be incredibly boring. So instead, I turn this mission into a 15-minute building sim. Yay.
Jirong is here!
It's destroying everything!
Dilong, do you know the way to the underworld?
I know the path to what you seek. I will guide you.
This is just the best dialogue ever.
Mission 5. Kill the opposing army and wait 1.5 minutes for the triggers to activate.
Go forth, soldiers! Crush Jiaolong's puny force! Send forth the reinforcements!
Mission 6. Destroy each of the opponent's 3 town centers.
Let us clear out this layer of thieves.
Yuji.
We are rescued.
How dare
Mission 7. Destroy the fortress. You also need to have units within a certain area. Don't worry about it.
King Aoguang, what is happening here?
my dragons succumb to the forces of chaos?
This is simply a microcosm of the chaos affecting all of China, Ao Kuang. Do you know how to reach Pangu?
That one always gets
As it
me.
happens,
They all
my
always get
scholars
me.
have a map.
Mission 8. Destroy the fortress and 4 towers. Again, you need units in a certain area. Don't worry about it. There's really weird triggers in
You
these
have
levels.
done me a great service, and I am in your debt. You will reach Pangu by following the constellation of Miao Hui.
And when you get there, Jiaolong, I will be waiting with my army.
Mission 9. Out of all 57 campaign missions, this is definitely the last. We need to secure the hill in the center of the map and build the Titan Gate to summon Pangu. It's not a very exciting mission to end things on, but I think we can all agree, this cutscene was well worth the wait.
Another wave is coming.
Expect a favorable report when I return you to the Emperor.
10 out of 10. Wouldn't change a thing. I suppose with that, our journey together is complete. That's the story of how I became a 5 times uncontested world record holder of some of the most coveted speedrun categories of all time. But please, don't let that stop you. You now know everything you need to take these records for yourself. Go on. I fucking dare you.